Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about a really important topic that can really apply to just about anybody. Because if you cannot focus on something in your everyday life, no matter what it is, whether it's family, school, work, hobbies, you're just not going to get anything done. So this video is all about how to improve your focus and productivity based on what we know from the subject of psychology. So let's get into it. So I did compile together a list of my best tips for you. So we're going to be looking at 5 different tips in this video. The first tip, very, very importantly, remove distractions. If you are constantly being distracted by something, it's no wonder that you're not able to focus on the task that you need to do. So let's look at your work environment as an example. If you come home from a busy day at work and you know that you have this project that you have to work on while you're at home, but your home environment is just super distracting with kids running around and the TV blaring in the background and people talking, that is probably not the best environment to be able to focus in. So ideally, you would find yourself a space that has as few distractions as possible. And I do realize this can be easier said than done, but if you're able to do it, it really will help you focus a lot better on tasks. So what I mean by free of distractions is try to find yourself a room that is relatively quiet, maybe away from other people, away from the TV. If you find that your cell phone is a really big distraction, maybe put that out of reach. Maybe put it on vibrate, right? Only really take calls if you absolutely have to, that kind of thing. If music is really distracting to you, then don't have music on. Try to avoid websites like Facebook, YouTube, anything that might be distracting to you on the internet. And if you're not able to find this type of environment at home, well, maybe working at home is not the best choice for you. Go to the office if that's quieter and more free of distractions. Go to the library, go to a coffee shop. Figure out what works for you. And I do understand that what one person finds distracting is not going to be the same for everybody. So figure out what your specific distractions are and try to eliminate those. I know that we get people who claim to thrive in environments where there's kind of a white noise in the background, whether that's just people walking around and talking like at a coffee shop, or people who like to have music on in the background. If that's you, that's totally fine. If that's not distracting for you, then that's totally okay. You need to figure out what's distracting for you specifically and try to reduce that as much as possible. My second tip for you is to organize your time and your workspace. If you're more organized, you're going to find it naturally easier to focus on what you're doing and therefore be more productive. So in terms of organizing your time, if you find it really hard to sit down and do your work, try to budget time slots where you know, okay, from 2 to 4 p.m., I'm going to be working on this essay that I have to write for a class, and I'm going to reduce distractions and make sure that that is all that I am doing for that 2 hours. And you can set a timer on your phone or whatever you need to do, and just make sure that during that time, that's what you're going to be doing to make sure that you really buckle down and focus. But of course, you also need to organize your things. So make sure you have all of the resources that you need to be able to do that job. If you're going to be working at your office or at home, make sure that your space is nice and uncluttered, free of anything that could be distracting to you. When you're working, that is not the time to be organizing your files or trying to find things or worrying about how messy your space is. All of that should be taken care of beforehand so that you can easily find things and really focus on the task at hand. And this really goes hand in hand with my first tip. If you are being distracted by how messy your environment is, how you can't find anything, that's just a distraction and it's going to make you less productive. My third tip for you is to not take on too much at once. So if you really want to be focused and productive, you have to be careful about not overwhelming yourself. And a really big secret here, well, I guess it's not so much a secret, but it's really important to not procrastinate. Like, wow, imagine that. I know a lot of us struggle with this, especially when we're younger. Procrastination in school and even work can be a very big problem. And I do hear from people oh, well, no, procrastination is a good thing because if I put something off to the last minute, then I really feel that pressure and it makes me buckle down and work. Okay. Um, Number one, the reason why you might think that you perform better under all that stress is because you are forcing yourself to work at the very last minute. So you feel all this adrenaline, you feel all this stress, you feel all this pressure to get something done, and that is making it so that you can no longer procrastinate on that task. And yes, a healthy level of stress does help us perform better. But the issue with procrastinating is that you're not letting yourself work on something as long as you may need to, and the stress may actually be so much that it's going to make you perform worse. So I would recommend planning out your time to where you have enough time to actually do the task that you have set for yourself. You should not be feeling this overwhelming sense of anxiety or pressure when you're trying to get something done. If you plan in advance, if you set it up to where you can work on something for maybe a couple hours every day or 30 minutes every day or whatever it is that you need to get this task done, you're going to do it better, you're going to feel less stressed, and you're going to be more productive. So there really is no downside to doing something, or at least starting something a little bit more in advance compared to procrastinating until the last minute. And by planning out your time and working in advance, you will also be able to build in breaks, which is great because you're going to be able to keep your mind fresh. You're going to keep that stress level down. And this means that your focus is not going to start drifting. Because if you try to focus on a task really intensely for too long, believe it or not, your mind is going to start getting tired. It's going to start fatiguing. So you have to build in breaks to keep your mind fresh, because the better able you are to focus, the more accurate you're going to be in your work, and you're going to get things done more efficiently and be more productive. So you're going to get more done in a shorter period of time, and you're going to be better at what you do. Now, my general guideline is to try to take a 10-minute break every hour or so, but this is by no means set in stone. Do what works for you. If you're really having trouble focusing on something, then maybe take a short break more frequently. And if you're really intensely loving what you're doing, you're super focused on it, then you probably don't need to take breaks quite that often. So just figure out what works for you. And I will say that if you're someone who really struggles to focus on a task that you really don't want to do, building up how long you can work on something might just take practice. So at first you might force yourself to, okay, I'm going to work on this specific thing for, say, 30 minutes, and then I can take a break, and you can slowly work up how long you're able to work on something and really focus on it. So eventually you might be able to work up to an hour or even 2 hours. Who knows? You might have to practice to work up that time. But if you ever feel like you're burning out and like something is becoming too much, stop. Take a break. You've probably overdone it. You probably should have given yourself a break a little bit earlier. So remember that for the future. My fourth tip for you may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but I promise this one is really important. Do not make yourself multitask if you can avoid it. I understand that some jobs are crazy and you have no choice but to multitask, but if you have the choice, just avoid it. Focus on one thing at a time, and when you're ready to switch tasks, make sure that you focus on that other thing wholeheartedly. The reason why I say this is because there has been a lot of research in psychology looking at the effects of multitasking on people's performance, and unfortunately, when you try to multitask, so focusing on multiple things at one time, well, it makes you perform worse on all of the tasks that you're doing. So really, you're much better off at just focusing on one task and putting all of your focus and effort into that. And then when you're ready, when you have a good stopping point, then switching over to a new task and focusing completely on that. What happens when you multitask is that your mind is not really able to focus on all of these different things at once and put in all of its energy and effort. There's going to be something lost in that process. And what your mind is doing is it's focusing on this one task, and then, oh, okay, now I have to switch over to this other task, and now I have to try to catch myself up to speed, but oh, no, now I have to switch back to this other task. You're not letting your mind do its best work. But if you just focus on one thing at a time, your mind is going to be able to put in 100% effort onto that one thing. So just avoid multitasking if you can possibly help it. And my fifth and final tip for you is to keep yourself healthy in terms of your mind, your body, and so on. If your mind and body is not healthy, if it's not fresh, then focus is really not going to be a priority for your brain, okay? You need to be able to keep your brain healthy. And what I mean by this is, number one, make sure that you're sleeping enough, because if you are tired, man, we all know that focusing when you're tired, it just does not happen. Your brain is much more focused on trying to get rest at that point. We need sleep to be able to consolidate memories and remember things. So if you're having trouble even remembering things, well, you're probably not going to work very well. You're probably going to perform worse, make more mistakes, and you're going to be really inefficient. So make sure that you're getting enough sleep. Also, if you can, try to exercise regularly, even if it's just walking around every so often. Go out, get some fresh air, go on a run, do some yoga or Pilates, lift some weights, whatever it is, just keep your body active. There is research, quite a lot of research, I will say, to support the idea that exercise puts a healthy stress on your brain, and it allows you to perform better on a whole lot of different tasks, including when you work, when you're trying to learn something new, when you're trying to remember information, reaction time, and so on and so forth. So when your body is kept healthy and active, it's also going to benefit your mind. You're going to be able to focus better, and you're going to be able to manage your stress levels better. And if you can keep your stress levels down, you will be able to focus so much better. And keeping your mind and body healthy also involves managing those stress levels. So if you become overwhelmed with work, if you are filled with anxiety, then once again, focusing really not on the top of your mind's list for things that are important right now. So you have to find ways to manage your stress, whether it's through exercise, like I just mentioned, or whether it's through meditation, or socializing with others, or doing something to help yourself cope with those stress levels, whether it's about organizing your time so that you can better manage things ahead of time and avoid that stressor in the first place. Whatever it might be, try to keep those stress levels down, because that's also part of your overall mental health. Now, there is a link in the description box down below. I wrote a blog post on this topic that includes a couple more tips for you when it comes to improving your focus and productivity, so definitely check that out down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Ding that notification bell for more videos just like this from me. And of course, subscribe if you are not already for more psychology-related content. I do post at least once weekly, and I will see you next time. Bye.